We're back. Welcome back to the program. Standing by in the Home Center Store hotline, Home Center Store, good people with the right stuff, Kubota LS Tractor and Cub Cadet, is Rick Esenberg of Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. And Rick joins me to talk about, it's not even, I think, fair to call it misrepresentations. It seems like it's actually crossed the threshold into outright lies about your organization in ads being run by Janet Protasiewicz. So welcome to the program. I invite you to correct the record and make your case why these ads ought to be pulled off TV.
Well, thank you. I mean, and look, Will as an organization doesn't advocate for or against candidates, but I do, even though individuals may, who work for Will may, but you know, I do have the right, I think, to correct something which is wrong and has been repeatedly wrong, and it's this. It's the allegation that Dan Kelly had some type of close association with Will, such that when he went on the Supreme Court, he should have recused himself from a number of cases that we brought before the court. And it had something to do with the fact that individuals who work for Will, including me, have made campaign contributions to him. And it's just absolutely flat out wrong. And it came up in 2016, and it came up in 2017, 2019, and it's coming up again. And
Rick, your phone's breaking up. Your phone is breaking up. If you can hear me, your phone is breaking up. So okay. Where you kind of broke up was it happened in 2016.
It happened in 2016. It was the subject of a motion before the court in 2017, 2019, and now it arises again in 2023, and it's just not true. The truth is as follows. We had a litigation advisory panel that existed in 2011 and 2012, well before the time that Dan Kelly even thought about going on the Supreme Court. Dan was a part of that, but we found out that panel was really helpful to us, and so it never met.
Yeah, unfortunately, Rick's phone is it's too garbled. So let's see if we can call him back. Try to call him back and see if we can reconnect, because that connection is just garbled. I will share this, which was put out in a press release by the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Will was formed in 2011 and briefly had a litigation advisory board of outside lawyers to help Will decide which cases to bring. Dan Kelly briefly served as a member of the litigation advisory board several years prior to his time at the Supreme Court. Membership was uncompensated. They add, although lunch may have been provided at 2 meetings, because there were only 2 meetings the board ever had. Those 2 meetings took place in September 2011 and August 2012. These were the only 2 meetings of the litigation advisory board. The organization ultimately determined the litigation advisory board was not necessary. It said while the group was not formally terminated, Dan Kelly did ask to be formally removed from the board prior to joining the court. So not only did the litigation advisory board go defunct, Dan Kelly formally dissociated himself from the defunct group prior to joining the court. The litigation advisory board did not have any role in Will taking on any of the cases mentioned in the ad. Dan Kelly had no role in Will taking on any of the cases mentioned in the ad, and the cases were never discussed with Dan Kelly. It says these issues have been publicly vetted before. All of them could have been discovered by a simple email or phone call. They are asking, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is asking for Protasiewicz to take down the ad. So I think we've cleared up the connection here, Rick. What is interesting is that even though you're saying what you're saying is false, Dan Kelly wasn't compensated. The litigation advisory board had nothing to do with these cases. Dan Kelly had nothing to do with these cases. This was years before Kelly ever got on the court, and Kelly wanted a formal dissociation with you. They're still running the ads, attempting, it seems, to suggest that he put his thumb on the scale of cases that you brought before the court.
That's right. And she emphasizes the fact that some people who work for Will made campaign contributions to Dan Kelly, and that is absolutely their right to do so. I don't think that Janet Protasiewicz has ever said that she's going to recuse herself from any case in which one of the lawyers made a campaign contribution to her. She's not going to do that. Nobody would ask her to do it. And Dan Kelly had no obligation to do it either. This litigation advisory panel had gone defunct 4 years before he went on the court. He formally disassociated himself from it, even though it was no longer operational. And this is just wrong. And it's very difficult for me, I'm sorry, to dismiss this as an honest mistake when this has come up repeatedly. And we have corrected it repeatedly. And those who are making the error refuse to correct it. And so, look, she can do it when she wants, but we've asked her to take this down. This really isn't the right way to conduct a political campaign by smearing an organization with something that simply isn't true.
Yeah, it's intimation based on complete inaccurate and false information. That's what it is. Let me ask you this question: can you lie in a campaign ad?
Well, under it's been an interesting issue before the Supreme Court. To what extent can you lie? Now, you're not supposed to. You may have a First Amendment right to do so because we don't want courts to be in the business of deciding who's telling the truth or not. But there is a standard for defamation. You can't defame people now. If, in fact, a statement is defamatory and the suggestion that we or a member of the court were engaged in some type of corrupt practice, and corruption is the word that she uses, under those circumstances, the law is that you're not liable for what you say unless you you say it knowing it's true or with reckless disregard for its truth or falsity. And I'm afraid, and I'm not threatening to sue anybody, but I'm afraid that we are in that territory because anybody who did the simplest amount of research into this question, and I think you have an obligation to do that when you're putting out campaign ads, would have easily found out that this statement was wrong. All they had to do was pick up the phone and call us. That never happened. And so now I have to put out a press release and I have to go on the radio to correct what is
because it's a smear. It's a smear not just of Dan Kelly, it's a smear of your organization. It's a smear of an organization that likely is to bring cases before the Wisconsin Supreme Court. It's about trying to alter perception of Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. It is interesting that you think she has crossed the threshold of defamation, because it is tough to prove defamation. I suppose it should be, although sometimes people walk right up to the line and never get called on the carpet for it. But it is interesting that is the comfort level they have going out there to beat you up, expecting that television stations won't pull the ad or radio stations won't pull the ad, and nobody will report on the demand that you just made today, because I haven't seen a report.
Let me say this. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, which is not always a friendly organization when it comes to our cases, ran a story on this and said that the ad omits important information. So even the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel knows there's a problem here. And, again, I'm not threatening to sue anybody. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe the voters of the state of Wisconsin are smart enough to sort this stuff out. But this isn't the way that you run judicial campaigns. You shouldn't smear candidates, and you shouldn't smear lawyers. And you need to, if you can't be careful enough to ensure that your campaign ads are accurate, then it's, I think, fair game to question whether you are going to be careful enough in other circumstances.
She won't.
Should you be accorded additional judicial responsibility?
She won't. She said she won't. She has said she won't. This shouldn't surprise anybody that she's out smearing lawyers and she's out smearing candidates, because she has already said how she is going to rule. She's already said how she will rule on abortion, on Act 10, on the district maps. And in fact, since she retweeted Julia Louis-Dreyfus, we can also assume she's already told folks how she'll rule on the congressional maps as well. And there are other big questions that would come before this court. So I mean, it kind of is. It's of her nature, it seems, to be perfectly comfortable walking up to the line of defamation of Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. By the way, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel says the ad omits important information. No, it looks like the ad flat out lies, not just omits important information. That's Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel trying to carve itself a little safe space, but not essentially calling or even saying if the ad is presented to them that they would reject it.
Yeah, well, look, we as an organization don't take a position on candidates. We can't do that. I certainly have a position. I don't think it's hard for anybody to figure out what I personally think about this race. But we don't have to sit still while, somebody makes false implications about us as an organization. We attempt to conduct ourselves in the most ethical and professional way that we possibly can. And there was nothing untoward here. We didn't do anything wrong. Dave Kelly didn't do anything wrong. And the suggestion that this amounts to some type of corruption is a flat-out, stone-cold lie. And, when you run an ad that is a lie, you should take it down. And I hope she does, but, that's not up to me.
Well, when you run an ad that is a lie and you know it's a lie, that also gives you information about a candidate. The problem is people have to know that ad is a lie. So, please go find the press release. I will share this on my social media as well so people can spread the word. Rick Esenberg, thanks very much for joining me.
Take care. Bye-bye.